All right, now let's go into the discussion segment. What is your take on this issue concerning the governor and his deputy, Akeredolu-Aiyedatiwa?
I think let me start by saying that what is happening in Ondo State is not unexpected.
Okay.
I have a situation where the governor, unfortunately, is not on seat physically. I understand that at the point he was taken out of the country for medical attention, and we understand that he's back in the country, though not in his state, operating from Ondo State, Ibadan to be precise. So for me, I think what has happened is not unexpected, because you have a situation where some persons who may be close to the governor want to exploit that his absence to usurp his power as against what the governor ought to do in the absence of the governor. Because ordinarily, if the governor did not transmit power to the deputy governor, it means that the governor is still in charge. And if the governor is not physically present, somebody will be given the directive.
Okay, so when you say this is something that is not unusual, are we likely saying that this is a situation of you giving the handshake and taking it to the elbow, as seen especially by most governors and their deputies? I'll give you an example of what happened way back when Governor Rotimi Amechi was on seat as a governor of Rivers State. And of course, we knew what happened when he was incapacitated due to the fact that he needed to attend to some court cases. And of course, by law, Wike stepped into the shoe. And then we saw the rottle and the huddle that went in between them. Is it what we're seeing right about now by governors who, by virtue of incapacitation and of course what the law permits, allows them to step in and then deciding to want to take over the reins of power?
I don't think it's a similar scenario, because there's never any point in time where Wike was in a position to take over from Amechi in Rivers State. However, looking at what is happening in Ondo State, I think in the circumstance, the right thing to do was to allow the deputy governor to start acting. If you are not satisfied that the governor is not incapacitated, because it is the state ESCO that have the right, upon determination of the Mr. Governor's personal physician, to determine that he's incapacitated. It behoves on the state ESCO to make a declaration that the governor is incapacitated based on findings by his personal physician, thereby allowing the deputy governor to be elevated to the position of governor. So yes, substantive governor. But in the circumstance, I think what would have been better is to allow the governor to start acting in the capacity of acting governor, rather than this scenario we find ourselves. Because if you look at it, what you are seeing, it may be a piece of the graveyard.
What do you mean by that?
A piece of the graveyard, because you are going to find a situation where some people will still want to usurp the position of the governor at the expense of the office of the deputy governor.
So are you saying now that this is a kind of fear, or would I say this is a level of distrust, in as much as, yes, he is my deputy, but I do not trust him so much to say, let him take over as the acting governor? But of course, the fear that would come in would be, if I allow him take over, would he not decide now to want to take full control of the state and its resources? What's your view on that?
I don't think it's even about the governor himself. Because the way it stands, nobody is able to go to his closet to come out and tell the public or the Ondo people the true position of things. So it's about the patriotism of those around him, his handlers. Because once you have access to Mr. Governor, you come out and you tell the House of Assembly, the commissioners, the deputy governor, Mr. Governor has said so. If you do not have access to the governor, you don't have option, you have to accept it. So that is where the problem comes.
So in as much as this information might not be in the preview of everyone there, looking at it from someone who is outside Ondo State, what is your view as regards that?
My view is that in the circumstance, you have two options.
Okay.
Just like Mr. President have said, from that resolution, if you still want the governor to remain in the saddle, there's no problem. But elevate the deputy governor to start acting. Because what you have just done is going to encourage people to further usurp the position of the governor. Because one, he's not physically present. And somebody must come with message from the governor as to his directive. And who says that the governor is the one giving the directive? You take a bill to Ibadan. You come back with it and say, Mr. Governor has signed. So once you have access to the governor, anything you come back with is acceptable. So for me, I think alternatively, the deputy governor should be allowed unfettered access to the governor, if that is the case.
So would you say that this is more of an influence externally, especially coming from the level lawmakers, trying to make sure that they have a vested interest as regards the deputy, maintaining his stay as the acting governor?
No, the deputy being made the acting governor is the way to go. There's no argument about that.
Okay.
Because that is why the constitution makes provision for the governor and the deputy governor. In the circumstance we find ourselves in that Ondo State, the right thing to do, I've said it, one is for the personal physician of the governor to examine the governor. And if you discover that the governor is incapacitated, the state ESCO will make a declaration that the deputy governor should be elevated to the position of the governor. You now look for another deputy governor. But alternatively, the House of Assembly can come in through doctrine of necessity, like what we saw during Akeredolu-Aiyedatiwa Jonathan scenario, and declare the deputy governor an acting governor.
Yeah, before we go deeper into Bola Tinubu's involvement, what does the law say as regards the period or tenure for which a sitting governor, can be declared as incapacitated, and of course, giving opportunity for the deputy governor to step into power?
I don't think the constitution expressly states that. It's just that the constitution empowers the state ESCO.
But that means it's not indefinite.
So what I'm trying to say, even if you want to, except you look for a political solution, because there's nowhere, because this scenario have played out even before now outside Ondo State. It's difficult to say this is what somebody can even tell you that Mr. President can stay in Saudi Arabia and rule from there. Someone can tell you that the governor can stay outside the state and rule from there. So I don't think that specifics in terms of the constitution to argue that the governor is violating any sections of the constitution by not being in the state. But the issue is there's a vacuum. You cannot take that away, because you cannot pretend that the governor is on seat while he's not on seat. The records are there.
Can there be an amendment to that fact?
Of course, it should be one of the areas Nigerians should be pushing for, if there is need for amendment. All
right, so now let's go into Tinubu's involvement. We understand that, of course, by virtue of the political reigns, he is the national party leader, so to speak, because it is I would call it an all parties affair. But now, looking at his involvement, why do you think he's coming into the feud between the governor and his deputy? Could it be that he is smelling a possible defection of the governor, the deputy governor, so to speak, that he will be able to now see opportunity to fight directly as an opposition in this case?
No, there are so many reasons he can intervene.
Okay.
One, this is his party. Secondly, by virtue of the concern of his party, he is the leader of that party. And the other one is that no party leader will want crisis that will polarize his party member to the extent of threatening his support base in that state.
Yes.
And don't forget that he equally have good relationship with the governor, who is now on his sickbed. So to that extent, I don't see anything wrong in that intervention.
But could there be a possible defection if he had not intervened? That's what I'm saying.
Even if he intervened,
looking at what happened, it might not be similar though, but it's somewhat resembling it, in the case that I'm talking about the case of Obaseki and the former governor Shomole. You remember that it was an all parties affair until when Obaseki pulled out of the APC and decided to now fight as an opposition and then retain his power. So are we likely to see such kind of things happening if Bola Tinubu did not intervene? That's what I'm saying.
We are not likely going to see it.
Why do you say so?
The dynamics then is different from now. And apart from that, I don't see anything wrong in his intervention. Because one, that is a political party, he's the leader of the party, and it will not pay, and apart from that, you have seen a situation where leaders of the states, even the foreign leaders, have written informally that his intervention is paramount. So for me, I think it was good that he intervened.
All right, so going forward, how do you see the relationship between them? Obviously, they've been reconciled, but of course, do you perceive any level of distrust, especially seeing what just played out going forward in terms of what should be allocated?
The relationship might not be so good, but they can pretend as if and try to work together. Don't forget that the essence or the major reason we saw this crisis is because of the 2024 governorship election in that state. And I believe that the handlers of Mr. Governor do not want the deputy governor to succeed the governor. That is even the reason I felt they were trying to initiate impeachment.
What's about the 2024?
No, there will be election in that state.
Of course.
So what I'm trying to say in essence is the major reason is, one, in the event of the unlikely happening to the governor's handler may not like the face of the deputy governor to succeed the governor. I know that once he becomes the governor, if the unlikely happens to the governor, definitely he stands a better chance of getting the ticket of the party for the next governorship election in that state.